Hey DCC, welcome to another edition of Morning Coffee. I'm going to start by reading a Bible verse. It's out of Genesis 28, 18 and 19. It says, "The next morning Jacob got up very early. He took the stone he had rested his head against, and he set it upright as a memorial pillar. He then poured olive oil over it, and he named the place Bethel, which means house of God, although it had been previously known as Lutz." All right. So, what I want to talk about is marking encounters with God. But I first wanted to kind of start out with a little bit of a story. I grew up in central Pennsylvania a good portion of my life, and I spent a lot of time hunting. My dad had 50 acres of land that was right at the foot of the mountain and state property, so then we could go out and hunt pretty much the entire mountain. And I know growing up that as I hung out with him and Steve Pauling and the Pauling brothers and Johnny Ulrich and Bobby and Billy Skelton and all the guys that I hung out with, and we'd go out hunting, our parents and our fathers always taught us to put out markers as we were walking. Because if you've ever been in the mountains of Pennsylvania, it's not kind of like Colorado, right? It's got trees everywhere. And you have these nooks and valleys and everything. And so sometimes you don't know if you're going up the mountain, down the mountain, going sideways. You can get kind of lost. And so you want to make some markers for yourself so that when you come back through that you'll know which direction that you need to take to get back to your car, get back to the field that you came from, or wherever you need to go. On one time, my dad actually broke his rule. He went out hunting and he was out there in Pennsylvania, and the guy said, "Hey, I'm going to take this upper ridge. I'm going to try to drive deer down your way, and you just keep walking a certain direction." Well, what they didn't know was the upper ridge kind of bent on around the mountain, and my dad's just kind of went off another direction. And so in the end, my dad couldn't find anything. It took him hours and hours, and I think like 13 hours later, he finally found some hunters that gave him a ride home. I think he was like 4 or 5 or 6 miles away from where he was supposed to be. So he never followed those markers. And I think it teaches us an important lesson when we kind of think of what, Jacob did here. He had an encounter with God. He wanted to make sure that he always remembered that encounter, but he also wanted to make sure that his family, that the nation that would come after him, would remember that God was present and they had that encounter at Bethel. And so he changed the name and he made a marker. And I think in our lives, we have a tendency to go through and we ask God for answers to prayer. We put in requests before him. We have some things that go in our favor. We are blessed. We have things that happen. And we often forget to put it down somewhere. Do we journal it? Do we mark it down? Do we have some way that we can recall it? Is there a way that our kids, our family, people that know us are going to, look at something or be able to read something and have that? But the biggest thing, the biggest advantage is for us, right? If I can go back to a journal or I can look at a stone or a piece of wood or something that I used on my office desk to symbolize God doing something remarkable in my life, being there for me, helping me get through something, then in the next time that I'm faced with adversity or difficulty, I can look at that reminder and I can remember God was with me then and he'll be with me now. So if you haven't done that, I'd love for you to start today. Just think about some times in your life where God did something for you and start to mark that down, whether it's a journal, whether you want to do what I do. I like to grab rocks or pieces of wood or something that means something to me. They're kind of unique, and I keep them in a collection, and they actually they remind me about some things that God's done for me. But today, just mark it down some way in your life, how God is working in your life, so that you can come back to those moments, whether it's with your kids or just yourself, and know that he's going to be there. Have a good day.